Welcome into the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. It is Thursday, August 25th. I am Blair Angulo, joined by the Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports, Steve Wiltfong, and we're here to discuss some big commitments coming up on Friday, a pair of prospects from the state of Florida. We're also going to discuss some of the big matchups as high school football gets underway across the country. But first of all, Steve, how are you doing?
Doing well, Blair. Just trying to keep up with everything. Games are happening nationally. I have Dante Moore, the number 2 overall player in the top 247, playing in Indianapolis this weekend. So looking forward to seeing more of the Oregon Duck commit play live. He was terrific last year when his team came down to Indianapolis and competed against Carmel High. They play against Warren Central High. And then on Saturday, I got Notre Dame commit Christian Gray, LSU commit Mac Markway coming to Indianapolis, as well as DeSmet Jesuit there in St. Louis. They take on Indianapolis Brebeuf, who made it to the state championship game in Class 3A, a mid-level class in the Hoosier States. So big games happening in my neck of the woods, and obviously big games happening nationally.
Yeah, I'll be in Las Vegas for that big matchup between Bishop Gorman and Mater Dei, two of the better premier high school programs in the country. I'll be able to see 5-star receiver Zachariah Branch, the USC commit, as well as SEC-bound corners Justin Rhett, who's committed to Georgia, Jeremiah Hughes, who's committed to LSU, Cody DeCamber committed to Oregon. A lot of star power there for Tita Field in Las Vegas. But we will discuss, obviously, a lot of those matchups next week. But this week, there is the Geico ESPN High School Football Kickoff, which features a number of games, Steve. And this is, I think, an opportunity for our listeners and for fans of football recruiting in general to get a sneak peek of what some of their college teams are going after. Tonight, there's a big matchup to kick things off. It's Lake Travis versus Arlington Martin, 8 Eastern on ESPNU. Who are you going to be looking for when you check out that matchup?
Well, Mel Tucker and Michigan State are working on another top 25 recruiting class, and one of the jewels of that haul is Bo Edmondson, the Spartan, sitting at number 22 in the 24/7 Sports Composite Team recruiting rankings. He's the signal caller for Lake Travis, and last year as a junior, he threw for over 3,200 yards and 38 touchdowns, so a prolific passer from the Lone Star State, and a guy that has all the traits and tools to come up to Michigan State and be the next terrific Spartans quarterback. He'll be on the field competing against an outstanding Arlington Martin team that it has some terrific defenders, none more highly touted than Xavier Toviano, who is high on Texas A&M. But last time I talked to him, he said that he was really thinking strongly about playing out of state, and LSU is a program that has also done an outstanding job recruiting him.
Yeah, it's going to be a terrific matchup. Remember, that's 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPNU, Lake Travis versus Arlington Martin. On Friday, you've got Mill Creek versus Norcross, both teams from the state of Georgia, and it's going to be another highly anticipated matchup. That one's at 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Steve, who are you be looking for in that matchup?
Yeah, well, there might not be a better football player in the country on the prep level than Caleb Downs, our number 1 ranked safety out of Mill Creek. He was outstanding in week 1. Another interception for him. His career tally in interceptions now, Blair, I believe is at he's got 15 career interceptions now, and a source that was on the field for his opener over the weekend said he could be an SEC running back if he wanted to be. So America will get a chance to see Caleb Downs on that national stage. His teammate Jamal Anderson is a linebacker that's committed to Clemson. And on the other side, you have a Georgia commit, Lawson Lucky. Georgia may have to reload that tight end room after Georgia has arguably the top tight end room in the country, and they're going to need to reload it quick. They have a couple of the nation's best tight ends committed, Lawson Lucky being one of them. He's a 3-phase player. You can play him attached. You can flex him out. You can move him all over at the position. One of the more versatile tight ends in America. He'll be leading the Norcross team against Caleb Downs and Mill Creek.
Yeah, and there are a number of college games, week 0 in the college football season, but you're going to be able to mix in some high school football if you so choose. On noon Eastern on ESPN on Saturday, St. Thomas Aquinas versus St. John's Prep from the state of Pennsylvania heads down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Are there any names to know from that matchup?
Yeah, of course. Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas, they're boasting one of the best secondaries in the country on the prep level, led by Penn State commits King Mack and Conrad Hussey. They're both athletic ball hawk players on the back end. Conrad Hussey this summer at the overtime OT7 event in Las Vegas was as electric a defensive back there. Got his hands on a lot of footballs, turned people over. So Aquinas, they need no introduction. They're year in and year out one of the best high school football teams in the country, and their secondary is the backbone for that program this year. And then St. Joseph's Prep, they have West Virginia linebacker commit Josiah Trotter, and then Emilio Agard is one of the more highly recruited defensive backs in the country, top 247 recruit in the 2024 class.
Yeah, and then there will be another matchup on that same field, Brian Piccolo Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A team from the state of California, Los Alamitos, with five-star quarterback Malachi Nelson, the USC commit, heading out there to play American Heritage. This is going to be a juicy matchup, Steve.
Yeah, Brian Piccolo Stadium. Whenever I hear that, I always think of him and his close friendship with Gale Sayers, and what a great story that was. Back in the day. And if people don't know who Brian Piccolo is, Google him and read up on Brian Piccolo. But obviously, this could be considered the marquee game of the weekend. You have Malachi Nelson, five-star quarterback, USC commit, and his prolific playmaker, Mekhi Lemon, who's one of the best two-way prospects in the country, could also be an elite safety on the next level, also committed to USC. T.A. Cunningham is one of the top 2024 prospects in America, a defensive lineman who moved from the Peach State out to California. So he'll be back in SEC country for this ball game. And then on the other side, you have one of the most polished receivers in America, Ohio State commit Brandon Inniss. The Buckeyes in contention for the top recruiting class in the country, and his teammate on the prep level, running back Mark Fletcher, will also be his teammate in Columbus, one of the more physically impressive players in the country, regardless of position, could also be a big-time linebacker on the next level if he wanted to be. And then Damari Brown is one of the more coveted corners in the country as well. Miami, Clemson, Alabama, some of the programs swinging hard at Damari Brown. So star-studded rosters on both sides of the ball. That's a game that I'm certainly pumped up for.
And Steve, there was interesting dynamic there. A lot of those players were previously committed to Oklahoma, right? When you think about Malachi Nelson and Brandon Inniss and Mekhi Lemon, these guys were beginning to foster relationships, and I know they're still friends and they're still, in a way cordial. It's going to be fun to see them compete on the same field from there. That'll be at 4:00 Eastern on Saturday, ESPN2. From there, they'll go to the state of Texas, Duncanville versus South Oak Cliff, and another really highly anticipated matchup.
Yeah, and when Duncanville's a program that's always one that's looked at to be a contender in the Lone Star State, and they have one of the best 2024 prospects in the country in Colin Simmons. LSU's done an excellent job with him early, and in the secondary they have top 4-star safety Kadavian Dotson, who's becoming one of the more highly coveted guys in the state. And then on the other side, you obviously have another terrific secondary that's going to be on display, led by Texas commit Malik Muhammad and Texas A&M commit Javon Thomas.
Yeah, and then to wrap things up on Saturday, 9:00 Eastern on ESPNU, Lipscomb Academy from the state of Tennessee takes on Thompson, one of the perennially good programs in the state of Alabama. Who are the names to know from that game?
Well, Lipscomb's coached by Trent Dilfer, and they had an outstanding season last year. Caleb Beasley is one of the biggest names to know in that ball game, and he's a guy that Notre Dame's hot and heavy on early. And then Thompson, they're coming off a tough week 1 game against Buford, one of the most powerful programs in the state of Georgia. So they'll look to bounce back against Lipscomb Academy, one of the top teams in Tennessee. And obviously Thompson's loaded Peter Woods, 5-star defensive lineman, committed to Clemson. Tony Mitchell, 5-star defensive back, committed to Alabama. And then Stanton Ramils, an offensive tackle that's going to head up and play for Michigan State as well. So Spartans fans will want to tune in this weekend to see guys like Bo Edmondson and Stanton Ramil across the ESPN network. I think this will be one of the best games of the weekend as well.
Yeah, and if you didn't get your fill, if that wasn't enough, there's a rare Sunday matchup as well. That'll be on ESPN at 1 o'clock Eastern. St. Xavier versus Loyola Academy. Ohio versus Illinois, Steve.
Yeah, Michigan commit is one of the featured prospects in that game. Brooks Barr out of Loyola Academy up there in the Chicagoland area. I got a chance to see him in a camp a couple years ago, the Edgy Tim Showcase. And you couldn't miss his size and length. That was during the pandemic. So started making a name for himself on the camp circuit, but picked Michigan in March. And he's a guy that's a 3-star recruit, but might be one of the sneaky guys that's in this Wolverines class that they've had such a great track record of developing. 6'6", 270 pounds, athletic. I think he's a guy that could be a real difference maker for the Wolverines down the road.
We are back on the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. Blair Angulo with Steve Wilfong, the director of recruiting for 24/7 Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at swilfong247. Steve, we broke down a lot of players to know heading into the big matchups in high school football. But there's a couple other things that are still happening in recruiting, and that would be commitments, a couple scheduled pledges. Let's begin with Mccary Vickers, the top 247 safety from the state of Florida. And it seems like right now he is, the crystal ball has him pegged to Oklahoma. What's the latest in his recruitment ahead of his commitment?
Yeah, I'm one of the guys that has him forecasted to the Sooners on the 24/7 Sports crystal ball. Took his official visit in June, returned for their big recruiting event in July. And I like the way it's trending for Brent Venables and company as they battle Alabama and Michigan, among others, for one of the fastest defensive backs in the country. And he's a guy that they're targeting at corner. Coach Venables and his staff see him as a difference maker out there on the perimeter, on an island, as they try and build that defense into a championship contender. And we know Coach Venables knows what it looks like, knows how to call it from his days at Clemson, and Vickers is a guy that they've coveted throughout. And I like where they stand going into it. Oklahoma has the number 7 recruiting class in the country. They're aiming to finish in the top 10 for 2 straight cycles under Venables and Blair. I've said it on other platforms, on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page, on a couple different shows, that I don't know if there's a first-year staff that's doing a better job recruiting than Brent Venables and company in Norman. And there's some damn good first-year staffs out there recruiting and making waves. Miami, Oregon, Florida. But Oklahoma, man, I think they could be on the verge of doing some special things with the way that they're recruiting.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning their need to reload on the defensive side of the ball. That's how they're going to be able to build a program that can actually contend once they arrive in that college football playoff position. What have you seen from this staff and from their efforts on the defensive side of the ball? Because I think we always know that Oklahoma is going to be able to recruit quarterbacks and skill position players, but I think the defensive side of the ball has always been the concern.
Well, to your last point, we knew that they were going to recruit great quarterbacks and offensive players on that side of the ball under Lincoln Riley. And now with Brent Venables in there and Jeff Levy in there, they're doing the same. They have arguably the top quarterback in the country committed in Jackson Arnold. They have one of the fastest receivers in the country committed in Jaquazi Pettaway. And with Bill Beatenbaugh, their offensive line coach, still there working in Norman, that they're going to have a terrific offensive line class, and they boast one of the best in the country, highlighted by Caden Green. But on defense, I thought at the end of the Lincoln Riley tenure that they really started to up their game defensively with what Alex Grinch and company were doing, and Brent Venables and his staff have come in and have really even elevated from that. PJ Adebaware is one of the most electric pass rushers in the country. He's in the fold. Jacoby Johnson, 6'3", 180-pound defensive back with supreme athleticism. Samuel Omoshigo is one of the best linebackers in the Midlands region. Lewis Carter's another rangy linebacker type. So they've added a lot of speed and dynamic ability on the defensive side of the ball. Hard-nosed players like Phil Picciotti. I think that this defense is really setting up nicely. And again, with Brent Venables, he's going to scheme you into success. He's going to play call you into success. He's going to develop you into success. And so when you look at the athletic profiles of these Oklahoma commits right now, and you see 6'3" and can run, or you see 6'4" and explosive, twitchy pass rushing traits, you get super excited about this group, and they're not done. Mccary Vickers could be next in the fold.
Yeah, Mccary Vickers, the number 6 rated safety in the class, according to the industry-generated 24/7 Sports Composite, number 85 nationally overall in this 2023 class, set to reveal his commitment on Friday, August 26th. Not the only one from the state of Florida that will be coming off the board that day. Daquavius Sori, another top 24/7 prospect. He's a receiver from Campbell. Is it Chipley High School in Campbellton, Florida? One of the better receivers that's still available out there. And I see Auburn on the crystal ball, Steve.
Yeah, I like Auburn going into his announcement. He loves Coach Harsin, and he loves Coach Harsin's offense. And Coach Harsin and his staff are out there looking for more playmakers to get that offense where they want it to be, and they view him as one. They have Carmelo English committed from in-state, who had a big junior year. And Auburn to date has just 7 commits right now. Receiver's a major need for them, and this is a young man that they covet.
Yeah, this could add a little bit of momentum heading into the season for Auburn. Number 68 nationally in the rankings as we record this, and only 7 commitments, like you mentioned, Steve. How big will this season be, given some of the rumors and the uncertainty that was floating around Coach Harsin last year?
Yeah, when I think about coaching staffs that need to, that the season is very pivotal for their recruiting successes. The first 2 schools I think of are Nebraska and Auburn. In Nebraska, they played 7 games last season where they lost football games by a touchdown or less. They need to reverse those fortunes, which will maybe reverse some fortunes on the trail, build up some momentum. Nebraska opens the season at noon on Fox, and 12:30 on Fox, game in Ireland against Northwestern, and it's an opportunity for them, which is basically a standalone game for recruits to tune in and watch Nebraska play, and for them hopefully play at a high level so they can finish off the recruitments of guys like Malachi Coleman and such, and get rid of any doubt about what kind of job security Scott Frost has at his alma mater. And Auburn's another one where it's very unfair, in my opinion, how Coach Harsin was railroaded by the media going into this season after just 1 year. If you want to poke holes and say, is Harsin active on the trail, or was this the right hire or not? In hindsight, look, you hired him, that's your guy. It's year 2. Let's see what he can do. But obviously there's a huge microscope on what's going on at Auburn coming into the season. And he's got some big early season games. There's going to be a lot of recruits at that game against Penn State. A lot of guys have already told me that they're going to be in Jordan-Hare Stadium when the Nittany Lions come to town. And Auburn, they played pretty well most of the season last year. Didn't close the way they wanted to. Tank Bigsby stays in bounds in the Iron Bowl. They beat Alabama. And that's a hell of a win to close the regular season if they can win an Iron Bowl. So those kids were playing hard at the end of the year under Coach Harsin and his staff. And, let's see how they rally around him coming into the season. But obviously with the way that the media treated Coach Harsin and Auburn, they'll be quick to pounce on Auburn if it doesn't go well out the chute. It just seemed like that was their narrative that they were going after. And so I would imagine that'll pick up again. And so that would not be good for recruiting. So the season is big for Auburn early on.
Yeah, they need a big start, and obviously they could get some momentum Friday. Daquavius Sori, the top 25 receiver nationally in the 24/7 Sports rankings, set to reveal his commitment. Steve, any other nuggets before we go? Anything that you're going to be looking for this weekend?
Well, Anthony Evans is going to announce his commitment to speedy receiver from the Lone Star State. He's going to go off on Friday, and Georgia and Oklahoma are battling down the stretch. A&M involved as well. Georgia has emerged as the 24/7 Sports crystal ball favorite, but Oklahoma is not going away. He's going to make his college decision Friday afternoon during his pep rally. So we'll see if Georgia can maintain the momentum or if Oklahoma can flip it from now until tomorrow when he steps up to the podium and lets people know what his college decision is. And then Blair, as you know, man, I think a lot of the top 247 has made their college decisions. That's just the beginning, my friend. We know that games are going to be played this fall. Kids are still going to communicate with other programs. Parents of kids are still going to communicate with other programs. Eventually, these college coaches are going to be on the road watching games and coming into schools during their bye weeks, and it's going to be flip season. It is season. It's coming.
I was wondering if you're going to pull it out. Are you going to pull it out?
So I don't carry a spatula on my holster. Maybe I should, but I don't have one. But I am happy that spatula season is something that other people are starting to say. And I've never created a slogan in my life, but I think that I'm the founder of that.
Now, do you just have one? Do you just have one spatula, or do you change it in after every cycle?
Well, my kids are spoiled around here, so they get pancakes often in the morning. So we have a couple of plastic spatulas, and then certainly I have my metal spatula that I use on the grill too. So we're spatula heavy at the Wiltfong house. I would imagine most households are.
I'm sure fans are going to start to ask you to maybe sign their spatulas if you make public appearances. That's when we know that Steve Wiltfong has arrived.
There are no fans for reporters out there. That's part of the there's a lot of reporters out there that act like they have fans, but they're just consuming the information that we're bringing. They're fans of the people we're writing about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll break out the spatula here and there. It's going to be exciting once you do. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Blair. Take care. We'll see you later.
All right, that is Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Like I said, you could follow him on Twitter at @SWiltfong. He broke down some upcoming commitments as well as the Geico ESPN high school football kickoffs. A lot going on this week as we kick off not only high school football, but also the college football season. For all the latest in football recruiting, make sure you stay locked into 24/7 Sports as well as the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. For Steve Wiltfong and our producer, Lance Glynn, I am Blair Angulo. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast.